ESA has confirmed that E3 is coming back, but do we want it? Yes, we are getting God of War Ragnarök this year. And Nintendo has finally announced a new Switch model, but is it the Switch that we were looking for? All that and the latest and everything cool today in the Rundown. Hey, welcome to The Rundown. My name is Victor Lucas, and I'm so happy to see you here in the Electric Playground. Today's episode is going out to Battle Mode Bainbridge, who had this to say about my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles review. I think it's one of the best modern-day retro games that have been made. Elite qualities, talking about Shredder's Revenge, which is absolutely incredible. I think it's a sprite-based masterpiece, and I'm so happy that we get to play it in 2022. One of my favorite games of the year. Check out my review. I am quite effusive about that title. All right, let's get talking about the re-emergence of the Electronic Entertainment Exposition. Earlier today, the folks at the ESA, not the European Space Agency, no, I'm talking about the Entertainment Software Association, announced that E3 will be returning in 2023. Mid-June is the target date, and it's going to be run by ReedPop, who puts on shows like PAX and also New York Comic Con. They are a massive exposition partner. They know how to put on these big events for lots and lots of people to go to, and usually have a pretty damn good time, I have to say. I've always enjoyed my visits to PAX and to New York Comic Con, and so it makes, I think, a lot of sense for the ESA to partner with a company that's got a lot of experience in putting on events of this scale. The big question about what E3 is going to be next year is how large is this show going to be? They want to return to the Los Angeles Convention Center, and historically, of course, E3 has been a much more business-facing event, which really was launched with the idea that retailers and press would come and get to have an early look and some hands-on time with some games that were going to be coming out towards the end of the year. It was much more holiday-focused in its programming. So all of these giant booths were set up to give people a taste of what was to come in video games, and it was an incredibly important celebration of the medium that brought people from all over the world together to kind of look in the crystal ball of what was to come for this medium. And of course, I've gone to every live event E3 that has ever occurred dating back to 1995, so I have lots of emotions tied into what E3 means to me and what E3 should do going forward. I've got some thoughts, but before I get into mine, I wanted to kind of put this question out to the community, and I got some tweets back. Adam Leonhardt from Megadad says, "Awesome news. I plan on returning, and I hope this will provide much needed structure to the way of things. Not a fan of Summer Game Fest." And I guess he's talking about the sporadic streams and events that happen throughout the summer, which is kind of the branding around Summer Game Fest. And E3 has always been a much more concise and consolidated week of news and information going out and blasting out into the world. At Chris Kioski says, "Not sure if I expect much, but I feel like they have to come back strong, and with the support of first and third-party devs. Competition has taken place, SGF, ad hoc dev showcases, while E3 lied dormant, and they need to set themselves apart now." Yep, some good comments there. Venomode says, "The last couple of years proved we don't need E3. Developers and publishers can just host streams on YouTube and Twitch and post trailers and interviews as needed, Nintendo Direct style." Yeah, Nintendo kind of set the stage, no pun intended, for what the video game industry has kind of wrapped their arms around throughout the summer. They just put on their own events and they released these little video showcases. Nintendo was doing that when we were physically going to E3. We would all crowd around our laptops and our phones watching the Nintendo Direct streams that they would blast out while the show was going on. It's very interesting. It's like they were looking forward into the age of the pandemic and realized that this would be a better way to go. I mean, there's no denying the fact that embracing the internet and the power of broadcasting this stuff from the show has got to be a huge part of what E3 means going forward. Alex James had a similar kind of comment. He says, "Wasn't the original purpose for E3 connecting retailers to game producers with Zoom and etc. now available? That is obsolete. Jeff Keighley does a better job unifying the big three at Summer Game Fest and the VGAs." And that's a huge point right there. The fact that Jeff Keighley is able to bring Sony and Nintendo and Xbox to the Summer Game Fest and the VGAs is a big deal, and E3 has kind of struggled with that. PlayStation, removed themselves from E3 over the last several years, and I think that is a key element right there. If PlayStation's not into E3 2022, then it's really not E3. I said that when they pulled out before. If PlayStation's not there, it's just not the show it's supposed to be. Now, Paul Gale has an alternative viewpoint on this. I think it's fantastic news. I started covering the show when I was 16, and I've attended every E3 from 2000 to 2019, including being a part of the 2021 digital show. Half my life in attendance. It's very much a part of me. Here's to a healthy and safe year up ahead. And that's kind of partially my take on this as well, because E3 was an instrumental element in the Electric Playground's success and its future. We chose to spend money that was part of the company kind of forming back in 1995 to go to E3 with a camera crew and shoot interviews and meet all kinds of people, and many of them have become friends, supporters of Electric Playground in numerous ways. And so E3 was instrumental in the building blocks of EP, and I cannot dissociate myself from that. I have an emotional tie to what E3 provided our show. We've had so many incredible interviews and awesome opportunities that arose at E3 over the years. Now, I think the wisest thing that ReedPop and the ESA should do with E3 2022 is not go too big with the show, not try to, outdo what has come before, not have these mega booths that cost millions and millions of dollars and hustle and work so hard to get all of these companies to spend tons and tons of money. I think they need the support, and I think they need to be there, but I think maybe it's a scaling down across the convention center so it doesn't take up all of the space. Maybe it's just in the two main halls and everybody's got kind of medium-sized booths. And it's not like an arms race to see who can spill out onto the streets and stuff. And I honestly believe that the ESA and ReedPop should work really hard with the publishers across the industry so that they're not putting together all kinds of off-site stuff that's running concurrent with it, not in hotels, not in parking lots, no offense, Devolver. I think this should really be an effort on ReedPop and the ESA's part to bring everybody together under one roof. And then I also believe that if it's going to have a consumer-facing element, that should be on specific days. It shouldn't be a blending. It shouldn't be we have all of the consumers and the fans attending at the same time as all the press and the retailers and the sort of business side. I really feel like the Tokyo Game Show model, and I think Gamescom does this as well, where there's at least one or two business-focused days with people that have media outlets and people that have retail stores, whether they're huge chains like GameStop or their mom and pop video game stores. Let those folks come and get some real hands-on time, because otherwise it does become a bit of a mess with people paying to get in and waiting in line and seeing media and retailers sort of getting shuttled to the front of long lines. Nothing could be more exasperating for someone that paid to attend this thing than to see all kinds of VIPs get shuttled and pushed for. I think there was a lot of animosity towards the way the E3 was run when they tried to do the consumer-facing thing. But the other side of this is also the safety issues and where we're going to be with the pandemic and whatever new variants and other things. Obviously, this is a huge concern, and we've got a lot of events starting to ramp up and come together, like the San Diego Comic-Con's coming together pretty soon. We're going to see New York Comic-Con and PAX come together this year as well. And hopefully, the pandemic starts to get much more under control, and we don't see cases start to shoot up and it starts to get crazy. Obviously, all of that learning will feed into what E3 becomes next year. But I think the most important element is to be inclusive of the entire industry and find a way to get everybody on board. And I really do believe if we hear from PlayStation that they will not attend, then this new show is dead in the water again. If everybody's having their own show, like EA Play would be offsite, if everybody's doing their own thing, then what is the big reason to pull everybody towards the convention center and get everybody over there? So yeah, I think the main thing here for ReedPop and the ESA is keep it concise, but keep it inclusive and make sure that everybody from the video game space has got some space there. So work it out with Devolver, work it out with Rockstar, work it out with PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo. Maybe the press conferences are a thing of the past. Maybe those are video reveals like Nintendo Direct has been doing, and it's mostly just this convergence and this hands-on time in this space. And the other thing I really propose back to ReedPop and the ESA is to work with Jeff Keighley and the Summer Game Fest, so we're not getting into this head-to-head war for attention, because I think the Summer Game Fest can coexist with whatever E3 is doing. But it will be very interesting. I'm not going to confirm that we're going to be there next year yet. But if it does come together and it does look exciting, you can bet that EP will be back at E3 2023. All right, you guys, let me know in the comments below if you are excited about E3 returning to the Los Angeles Convention Center. And also, I'd love to hear from you if you would consider attending if it's open to the fans, if everybody can go and participate and get some hands-on time. They have to do it better than they've done it in the past, but I suspect with the ESA working with ReedPop, that's exactly what they're planning to do. All right, let's talk a little bit about what's going on with God of War Ragnarok. We finally heard from PlayStation and Sony Santa Monica that God of War Ragnarok will indeed be coming out in 2022. There was a lot of speculation that this was a game that was going to slip into 2023. It's a title that's coming to the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, but obviously there's a lot of attention on this game to take full advantage of what the PlayStation 5 hardware can deliver. The release date is scheduled for November 9th, 2022, and they put out a CG trailer to kind of celebrate that announcement, give us a sense of the feel and the vibe and the menace. We get an older Atreus who is working with Kratos now. Atreus is much more of a teenager now, and he's got his own power and his own determination, and you can hear it in his voice. And what they're teasing with God of War Ragnarok is starting to give me the sense that this might be Gods of War Ragnarok. I don't know if we're getting any co-op gameplay. That hasn't been announced with God of War Ragnarok, but it would not surprise me if that is a feature maybe down the road with these two characters, or maybe we get a mode that is in an update or DLC type content. I get the sense that they're really positioning Atreus to be a much bigger component of the gameplay. And that's exemplified a little bit in the Jotnar collection. This is the Super Supremo Collector's Edition that you can get for God of War Ragnarok. It comes with some stuff that isn't in the regular Collector's Edition. Both of them come with this replica of Thor's Mjolnir hammer, which is pretty cool. And Thor is obviously a character that we're going to encounter in God of War Ragnarok. But we also get this collection of really cool-looking pins in the Jotnar collection. And one of them is for Atreus, the little wolf pin right there. And so that has me thinking, like, well, Atreus isn't just a tag-along in the lore now. You know, obviously Kratos is an incredibly caring father in his own way, and that was one of the things that made the last God of War game so successful, was to see this emotional range of Kratos. So we're going to see that exemplified, but I don't know, I get these little threads that maybe this is going to evolve into a cooperative series. Now, it might not be this one, but this huge emphasis on these two characters in God of War Ragnarok is really giving me pause. I'm just excited to play this game. I adored God of War. I'm still playing it on the Steam Deck to this day, as a matter of fact, and I'm getting so hyped for Ragnarok, and I know that a lot of PlayStation fans, especially PS5 owners out there, are incredibly happy that we're going to be getting this AAA title this year. Cannot wait for God of War Ragnarok. Let me know if you would like to see this game evolve, or this franchise evolve into some kind of co-op adventure. Let me know in the comments below. All right, let's talk a little bit about that new Switch hardware that was announced. No, I'm not talking about the Switch 2 or the Nintendo Super Switch. I'm talking about a new OLED model to celebrate the release of Splatoon 3. Nintendo is releasing a Splatoon-themed Nintendo Switch OLED model with all kinds of wacky signage from Splatsville, the kind of chaotic urban environment, so you can kind of see it all interlaid and placed throughout the Switch dock and on the back of the Switch. There's some pretty funky purple and yellow colors in this as well. And you also even get a little color splat, like a paint splat, on the front of the dock as well on this device. I'm really happy for all of the Splatoon fans out there that adore this franchise. I can't wait to play Splatoon 3. The Splatoon series has really surprised me, I have to be honest. It's so compelling and so fun to jump into this insane cartoon shooter where you're just blasting and spraying ink all over the place. It's really fun. So I can't wait to review the game, and I think it's pretty damn cool that there is now a new OLED model out there, because we all know how successful the launch OLED model has been. I love mine. I love the screen, even in the face of pretty stiff competition like the Steam Deck with its enormous, endless library of titles, and I play on the Steam Deck all the time. I still love playing on the OLED screen of the Switch OLED. And not just the Nintendo first-party stuff either. You just get an incredible looking image for a lot of like 16-bit stuff. I love playing the Turtles on there. I love playing those new Genesis titles that have just been added to Nintendo Switch Online. I've been playing Cuphead: The Last Delicious Course on the Nintendo Switch because of that beautiful screen. So it's great that there's more models out there for OLED fans and especially for Splatoon fans out there. But yes, the elephant in the room is, are we going to get an announcement of new Nintendo Switch hardware? Are we going to get this beautiful OLED screen on more powerful architecture, a Switch 2, a legitimate successor to this platform? I think we're all kind of anticipating that. My suspicion still, nothing has really deterred me from thinking this. My suspicion is that with the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, we're going to get a Switch successor. And I think it will be called something simple to carry people over to this new machine. I want them to call it Switch 2. I put a whole video together around that. But it's always exciting when Nintendo's releasing new hardware, even if it's an incremental addition or something that's just purely about aesthetics, like the Splatoon 3 themed Nintendo Switch OLED. You excited about that one? Are you excited about the game? You can talk to me about that in the comments below too. All right, I've got one last thing to tell you guys about, and that is the game Inscryption is headed to the PlayStation, and likely down the road it will be on other platforms as well. The game, which was created by a single developer, Daniel Mullins, who I've never met, but I definitely want to, is such a huge hit. It's been on PC. I played it a little bit, but it's when I played it, it was much more of a mouse-centric experience. I haven't downloaded it to the Steam Deck. I haven't tried it out on that machine yet, but I don't tend to play too many games with a mouse and keyboard, mostly because I'm always editing with a mouse and keyboard, and I want to break from that. And so I like to sit back on the couch and play with a controller. Now we can play this really creepy deck building strategic experience with lots of interesting hooks and surprises on the PlayStation, and I'm really anxious to see how the controller support is. Apparently there's going to be some interesting DualSense configurations on the PlayStation 5, but Inscryption, and I've heard this from multiple people, is one of the best modern games that you can play. I actually had a bunch of people vote for the Game of the Year in the Rocket and Ray Guns last year, which is pretty cool. So Inscryption is headed to the PlayStation, and keep your eyes out for other consoles down the road. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for the rundown today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for hitting that subscribe button and that little bell to be notified when new videos pop up, and also for following our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/EPN. We'll see you soon, and until then, play forever.